In the tense early hours of a July morning, the world held its breath as a fleet of U.S. aircraft surged through the night sky, bound for key military targets in Iran. The mission was swift, decisive, and surgical, or so the Pentagon claimed in its dawn briefing. For months, tensions had been boiling. A drone strike in the Persian Gulf, a cyber attack on American satellites, and the sabotage of an oil tanker in the Strait of Hormuz had all left Washington on edge. Intelligence agencies traced the digital fingerprints to a covert unit within Iran's Revolutionary Guard. Diplomacy failed. Words were traded. Then came the order. Operation Iron Resolve began just past midnight. Tomahawk missiles streaked across the sky, hitting radar installations near Bandar Abbas. U.S. jets followed, targeting missile launch sites and command bunkers suspected of coordinating attacks against U.S. allies. Explosions painted the sky in pulses of orange and red. Power grids went dark in southern Iran. Emergency sirens howled across cities where civilians scrambled for safety. President attack, we will act with clarity and strength. But clarity was far from reach on the streets of Tehran. Smoke trailed from buildings near the capital's southern edges. Hospitals overflowed. Internet service flickered. The Iranian government denounced the strike as a brutal violation of sovereignty and vowed a thunderous reply. The world watched in uneasy silence. At the United Nations, delegates from every region gathered for an emergency session. Russia and China called the strike reckless. NATO allies, though not directly involved, offered cautious support for Washington's defensive action. Meanwhile, inside a modest home in Isfahan, a young man named Kamran cradled his injured sister, blood soaking her headscarf. His father, a retired teacher, sat frozen with the TV remote in his hand, watching buildings he once walked past, now reduced to ash. Far away, in a base in Qatar, U.S., Air Force Captain Rachel Owens removed her helmet after a successful mission. She stared into the mirror of her quarters, her hands still trembling, not from fear, but from knowing that her flight tonight would define lives, policies, and futures. She thought of her brother back home, protesting the war in Washington Square. Two people, two sides, one conflict. By the next sunrise, global markets were rattled, oil prices surged, airlines canceled routes across the Middle East. The Red Sea saw a U.S. Navy fleet reposition itself, and Iranian submarines began silent maneuvers in the Gulf. And yet, no one declared war. Not officially. Instead, the world entered a new, uncertain phase, a twilight between diplomacy and devastation, where every movement risked igniting the dry forest of global politics. Children played in bomb-scarred courtyards. Analysts argued on split-screen news panels. Missiles sat in silos. Eyes watched satellites. Soldiers tightened their gear, and somewhere between hope and fear, the world waited for the next strike or the first step toward peace. Only time would tell.